What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, back again with another deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at a list for Brandt. This is going to be for Cardinal, Deus, Orfist. So this is the other archetype not out of the trial deck for Brandt, coming out of Genesis of the 5 grades. A really awesome deck, super fun. I think that it is, I don't know if that slept on is the right word, but I think it is a lot more competitive than a lot of people are giving it credit for. I think that there's definitely a certain mindset that you have to have when playing this deck. I'll kind of go over some of the pros and cons and just overall strategy of it in just a bit in a different segment here, but overall this is like an awesome deck. If you are kind of into Link Joker and whatnot, it kind of has that aesthetic, so maybe it appeals to you. But let's hop right into it. I'll get into some pros and cons of the deck, just the general overall strategy, some things to really think about while playing, as well as the deck list and a test hand. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Alright, and to begin, I just wanted to go over like the general overview of the deck, like what our winning image really is, what's the game plan. So this deck kind of rides and operates through these world order cards where by your first grade 3 ride, you want to have 2 of them down so that your world becomes the, the Abyssal Dark Knight. So that nets us a lot of different benefits on top of the actual order card itself. I'll get into those skills in just a little bit, but another benefit this deck has, and the overall idea of it, is to spam out these Shadow Army units. These guys are coming from our main Vanguard. I'll go into his skill in a little bit more depth in a bit, but you can spam out 3 on your turn, and essentially you're pressuring your opponent with 15k bodies. So you stack 2 of them in the same column. That's a 30k column, which is pretty impactful. I mean, initially on your very first grade 3 ride. Now, obviously, 33 is kind of that magic number you want to hit, but having that 30k column potentially getting boosted by a trigger or whatever it is still very impactful. And the fact that we can call these out and we don't have to expend them from hand allows us to conserve a lot of hands. So that's actually another advantage I wanted to talk about. This deck just draws a ton. Like, your main idea is to whittle your opponent down, just last a little bit longer, play the long game. It might be a little bit slower than some other decks, but in general, it's doing what it wants to do every single turn, being very consistent and drawing a lot. So if that's kind of like, rings your bell, whatever it is, floats your boat, this is definitely the strategy for you. Just some, I guess, like a weakness or a downside of the deck. While the Shadow Army tokens are good, they're sometimes can be just very consistent and not explosive. So I think that a lot of decks in Overdress right now have their, their blowout turn very clearly defined. Barrow Magnus, get the 15 in soul. Verena Valiente standing up. Bruce restanding over and over. Bastion again, the restand. But this deck does it everything very consistent, but it just doesn't have that oomph that it needs. So I actually changed 1 or 2 things in here that I think kind of help with that. But overall, the idea is to just last a little bit longer and survive, and eventually you will whittle down your opponent. So without further ado, let's hop right into the deck profile and I'll show you the card list. Alright, starting off with our ride line, just going to start off with the grade 0. You can run any grade 0 you want, but I just kind of like the Orfist one. Starting off again with our grade 1 now in the ride line. This is Cardinal Rotis, I think that's how to say it. Essentially, when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, you get to search your deck for an order card and then add it to your hand. So you want to be adding the grade 2 order card, which we will go over in a little bit, so that way you can have it active and ready for our next grade 2 ride. Also, if you have any world order card, this guy's gets an additional 2k. It could be either the Abyssal Dark Knight or the regular Dark Knight, so 1 or 2 order cards does not matter. Also, our next grade 2 here in the ride line is going to be Cardinal Nold Cubicia, I think that's how to say it. Anyway, its skill on Vanguard Circle Auto: when a world card is put into your order zone, choose one of your units and it gets an additional 5k until the end of turn. So this is actually a little bit more impactful than you think. So let's say we're going second, right? We swing with this guy, it's 10k. We didn't give the 5k to itself because we have, like, let's say an additional grade 2 over here. You're going to give that 5k to your grade 2. Now you swing, your opponent hits a defensive trigger, they're 20k. You get lucky, you also hit a trigger, so obviously they let you hit, whatever the case may be. You're going to put that trigger on your backup, and your backup goes from being 10k to 20k, obviously, with the trigger, but the 5k makes a difference because now they have to think like, oh, I have to either expend a trigger or 2 cards from my hand, 2 regular units, to guard out that attack, whereas before they just needed to use 1 if you gave the 15k to itself. So not too bad overall. I really actually like this. I think that's kind of like a sneaky 5k play that you can do in the beginning of the game. And then to wrap it up, we obviously have Orfist. So Orfist's skill, pretty simple, but at the same time makes the player think a little bit more. This guy's skill continues on Van or Rearguard Circle. During your turn, if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets an additional 5k. its second skill, act on Vanguard Circle. If your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you get to counterblast 2 and call up to 3 Shadow Army tokens to Rearguard Circle. So again, the army tokens are really nice, 15k bodies. They are grade 1, so they can boost as well, so you can put it behind your Vanguard, you can put it behind obviously themselves too. You can just flood the board with these. Oftentimes people won't go to attack them because they know they can just be respawned anyway, so I think that they are actually really good, and by the end of the game, you know, your whole field should be flooded with these. When you are boosting the Cardinal, Deus, Orfist with a Shadow Army token, we are looking at typically, what was that, 15, 18 is 23, plus the 5k, so you're hitting that 33k, really nice number. Overall, that's kind of the number you should always be aiming for, I think, right now in Overdress, so this helps us get that, especially if you're going to Persona Ride too, like that's really nice. You get that over to 43k, which can be a huge attack. Alright, moving right into the main deck. Before I get into the units, I just want to speak about the order cards, so I'm going to go over those first. We are running 4 of the In the Darkness Nobody Knows, as well as 4 of Howling Moonlit Night. So I think that these 2 cards are really great. I think they're order cards that I've seen so far in the set 2 are just going to get better and better, so I like the strategy overall. These 2 cards do 2 separate things. They both pay them with a Soul Blast 1. For the In the Darkness Nobody Knows, when this card is put into the order zone, we get to choose one of your opponent's cards in the front row and then retire it, one of the rear guards in the front row. This second card over here, Howling Moonlit Night, essentially when this card is put into the order zone, we get to draw a card, so really keeping that hand size nice, really helping us with removal over here. Just really great cards, and the second part of it kind of goes into this. At first it was a little weird to read, but once you play it, it's so simple. Essentially when you have one order, either of these, your world becomes Dark Knight, and if you have one or more, like 2 cards in there, you essentially, not one or more, just you need 2 cards in there, sorry, 2 or more, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So Abyssal Dark Knight, once you have that, unlocks the full potential of Orfist and just some other cards I think in the deck in general. So really nice overall to have multiple ones of these. You want to always be playing an order card every single turn, so you always want to be Persona riding, digging a little bit deeper, making sure that you have your Vanguard to fuel your soul, because there's not a lot of soul charge in general with this deck. So with that being said, we are running 4 Orfist total, so 1 in the ride deck and then 3 elsewhere. Again, we already went over the skills, so nothing else much to say. We do need to ride these, I feel like, almost every turn just to get that Persona ride and get our soul nice and healthy in general. So maxing that out, you definitely do not want to cut that. Next up for a grade 3, kind of an interesting choice. You can choose to run this at 2 of instead of 3 of, but I've been testing it out at 3. I think it works. I think I see it often enough. This is going to be Lightning Thief Monster. Oh my god, how do you say this? Jabatail? I don't know exactly, but its skill is pretty simple. Continues on Rearguard Circle. If our world is Abyssal Dark Knight, when this unit would attack, it battles all of the units in your opponent's column. So you can really help with removal with this, so I think that this gets played a little bit earlier in the game. Like if you went second, your opponent already put down their key grade 2 piece or whatever, you play this guy, you attack that entire row, you make them waste 2 cards if they're not, you know, calling tokens or whatever. So I think that this really helps with removal. And let's say there's something really pesky behind your Vanguard, maybe you're playing Magnolia and they got that triple rare behind it, you can just attack that and still go for the Vanguard and then boom, hit the second unit in that row. So I kind of like this card as of right now. Maybe it'll get bumped out with the set 2, but as of right now I am running it at a 3 of. Moving right along, kind of an interesting card. Now I know obviously in this deck that counterblasts are very important, but we have a card to kind of help us with that. So like I mentioned, also, like, our whole strategy is to win and just win by lasting longer in the game. To do that, you need to draw cards. So as such, I'm running this guy at a 3 of. This is a Polar Cold Monster Drumler. So its skill auto, when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you get to Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and draw a card. So this is really good on your grade 2 turn. You basically just generate a little bit more hand advantage. You have that Counterblast typically, and you know, when your opponent is on their first grade 3 turn, if you're going second, like they're probably going to give you 2 damage at some point, unless they really do not want to. So I think that this card paces well, kind of like at a midpoint in the game or a little bit earlier in the game. By the end of the game, I feel like your whole field is just kind of taken up by those Abyssal Dark Knights, but this guy essentially just lets us draw. So really nice overall. I like it for that. I think at a 3 of, it's fine. Some people play it at 4, but I think 3, I see it often enough, and you don't want to be spamming too many counterblasts. Wrapping up our grade 2s over here, we actually have 2 of the Ride Line grade 2s. This is going to be Cardinal Nold Cubisa once again. So we see this guy for its second skill in the regular deck, continues on Rearguard Circle. During your turn, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets an additional 5k. So just the 5k number helps. If you didn't spam out the Knight token, the Shadow Army token, you can essentially just still boost it for the same number, hit that at least that 30k column. Otherwise, if you don't have anything behind it, at least it threatens for a hit on your grade 3 turn if they are on a Vanguard, grade 3 Vanguard. So overall, I think that is decent. Again, this might also get bumped. I'm not 100% sure with the second set coming out, but as of right now, I think that it is a very decent backup card. Moving on to the next grade 1, then, this is definitely like a necessary card. I think this guy is going to be 4 of Detonation Mutant Bobamine. So very interesting card, helps us a ton in this strategy. Its skill auto on rearguard circle at the end of battle that this unit boosted. If your order zone has a set order, we get to cost, put this unit into our soul, and then countercharge 1. So I know it's not during our main phase, the countercharge, but in general, like giving us that countercharge, it just helps us defensively as well as offensively, potentially for next turn, and defensively for another card I'll show you right after this one. But fueling the soul is really important too, because we are using order cards hopefully every single turn, and that actually takes obviously a soul blast to play. So to keep up with the pace of the deck and what the deck really wants to do, I think that we need that soul nice and healthy, and this guy helps us on both fronts with that countercharge and the soul. So very nice card. I know this is a little juiced in price right now, but it definitely is necessary for the strategy. Moving right along, and again, I kind of said that this is a slower playing deck. I think that you need to last defensively, and this kind of helps us do that. So this is going to be useful recharger. So its skill auto when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, counterblast 1, and if your world is Dark Knight, this guy gets an additional 5k until the end of turn, and if it is Abyssal Dark Knight, this guy gets an additional 10k until the end of turn. So getting that extra 15k guard. We don't have a Blitz order, I don't believe, that does that, so we definitely need a little bit more in the deck. And I know what you're thinking right now, wow, like my Vanguard takes up 2 counterblasts, like it's just not possible to run this. It definitely is. Like the Bobamine or whatever it's called really helps with that countercharge, and if you're pacing the game right, you might not even need to spam a whole new slew of Shadow Army tokens throughout the game. So really up to you to pace it correctly, but this guy definitely helps on that defensive front. Has helped me kind of just hold out games where I should have lost, I feel like, at times. So really nice card. I like it at 3 of. 4 of it's a little too clunky, gets a little bricky, doesn't really extend plays or anything like that. So I think this is good at a 3 of. And then to wrap up our grade 1s over here, obviously we are running the perfect guards. So running the new perfect guards out of the Genesis of the 5 grades. If you can't get your hands on these, I don't think they're too crazy in price right now, but you can run the trial deck ones if you really want. But obviously this one differs in that you can, if you have just 1 card in your hand, aka this card, you can discard it with no additional cost. You don't need to discard 2 cards for a this card plus another card for that perfect guard. So just PGs are good, need them in the deck, so that it is what it is. Moving on to the trigger lineup, this is actually a little bit more interesting now. Let me see if I can get this all in frame. So obviously the overtrigger's effect for the Brandt Gate is that obviously the 100 million, the draw, and the heal potentially, but its additional effect is you get to double the attack and critical of all of our front row units until the end of turn. So really nice to kind of double your attack on those Shadow Army tokens, +2 if you ripped like another trigger. This can double that, like, you know, if you rip the second or whatever the case may be, this can double that as well. So really impactful, really nice overtrigger for the strategy. I guess let's start off with the regular stuff. This is going to be, I think, 8 crit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be just 1 draw. I think that drawing, again, we draw a lot in this deck, but just to hit 1 is nice. Nice is like a discard fodder sometimes too. Obviously the 4 heal, but the real spice is, I guess, the 2 fronts. So I know what you're thinking, like, oh, fronts, like, they're just not impactful in this meta. Like, everybody should be running full crit. Like, that is normally true. That is fine. Like, we are running the full potential crit in this deck, but we draw so much that I think that the offensive power of a front trigger, if you hit it early enough in the game, really makes a huge difference. So if you're on your first grade 3 ride, I found when you hit a front trigger, it just makes them bleed from hand a lot more. This is like a lot more pressure than you would have had otherwise. Once you rip this on a Persona ride, again, you're still bumping your whole front row 10k, and you are attacking with your Vanguard first. There's no funny shenanigans there with the different attack orders. So I think this deck definitely benefits all fronts. I think Seraph Snow does too. I think those are like, this is the one clan where I think fronts are a little bit more prevalent. I could be wrong, but I really like the fronts. I'm telling you, try it out. I might even bump that draw out just to put in a 3rd front. It feels really good in the deck whenever I hit it, and just kind of helps flow a little bit better with the pace of the game, keeping me in the driver's seat and just making sure that I have that better hand advantage over my opponent, making them bleed a little bit more from hand. So thank you guys so much for watching so far. We are going to hop into a test hand now and check out how the deck kind of plays. Alright, let's shuffle up over here and get started. So overall, like, if you want like a really summarized explanation of the deck, pace out well, make sure you're drawing a lot, make sure you aren't expending too many of your resources from hand offensively, because we do have those Shadow Army tokens. And then I think, you know, you'll definitely win the game. If you're able to last long enough, like there's no way your opponent can keep up with the consistency of this deck, especially with the removal that it has in the front row. I feel like so many decks run these like necessary key cards, put them in their front row, and then, you know, if you pick them away with your order card, it's really easy just to kind of gain the upper hand on your opponent. But let's draw into 5 cards here and pretend we go first, as we always do in our test hands, just to make it a little bit easier. Let's check it out. All right, what do we get? Not too bad, not a bad hand actually. I'm gonna keep these. We don't really need the grade 3. I like the grade 2 a lot more, but we want to have at least one order card in our hand additionally, just to make sure we can get off the Abyssal Dark Knight on our grade 3 turn. So we're gonna draw one more. Okay, this is a better hand then. All right, perfect. A lot of defensive capability, a lot of counter charging there, as well as fixing our soul. Shuffle up one more time. Okay, cool. Let us begin. We're going to start with our starter over here, obviously. We are then going to draw for turn. And then we're going to discard a card. So I think we're actually going to discard the... No, I'm going to hold that because they might have a crazy like grade 2 or something that we don't want to deal with. I'm going to discard one of him. And I am going to go to my ride deck, and we don't draw off the ride if we go first in Overdress. We're going to then, one place on Vanguard Circle, we're going to look for one World Order card and add it to our hand. So we are going to look at and get that Howling Moonlit Night. All right. We're going to pass it over to our opponent. We'll take a damage for their turn. Boom. All right, critical trigger. That. I know there's a lot of glare on that, I'm sorry. All right, pass it over to us now. We are going to stand and draw. Drawing a heal trigger, perfect. All right, so we have this, that. What do I want to discard? I might discard one of these just because, Now I'm going to discard the grade 3 one. I kind of like the grade 2. I want to make sure I keep that hand advantage. So now I'm going to ride into the grade 2 over here. And unfortunately, we don't have the other support grade 2 yet. So I'm going to just play the World Order card, Howling Abyssal Night by Soul Blasting 1. Howling Moonlit Night, whoops. And this is going to now get an additional 5k, so that's going to be up there in the World Order zone. And we are going to swing at our opponent now. Boom. Okay, we got that right back, so nice. We did get that order card. Pass it over to our opponent, take 2 damage. 1. Front trigger, nice, 2. Oh, wow, all these triggers ripping. Wish this was a real game. Stand and draw. Oh, man, another heal trigger in hand. Dang. Really, really hurts sometimes. We are now going to discard a card. I'm going to discard... I am still going to discard this card just because I don't think they have too many problematic things in their front row right now, and I just like the draw power of the Moonlit Night. Let's do that again. Let's get another Moonlight out there. Let's Soul Blast 1. Let's draw a card. Oh, drawing all of our triggers. I really hate to see it. Let's put this guy behind here. Yeah, let's do this, and let's also activate his skill now. There is an Abyssal Dark Knight, so this guy gets an additional +5, and that is also on Rearguard Circle too. So if you really are lacking in Rearguards, you can, I guess, call him there. It'll be an 18k body, but we are going to then Soul Blast 2, call out 3 tokens. I'm going to call 1, 2, and 3, just because I think in the beginning we don't really need to swing with like a huge number on our Vanguard. It naturally applies a little bit more pressure, but let's swing into it. I think the reason they gave the Rearguard Circle the ability to get that extra 5k is so you can hit that magic 33k number with the Shadow Army tokens behind it. So swinging at our Vanguard for 18k, we're going to do 1 critical, 2, okay, cool. We have another order card. We'll be able to keep flowing into that. We're going to then swing, and then we're going to swing and swing one more time. We're going to put this into our soul, counter charge 1. It doesn't have to hit, it's just when it boosts, so it's not like locked behind that hit wall, which is really, really, really nice. Pass it over to our opponent. Let's take a damage here. All right. Oh, wow. Over trigger. We are going to put it obviously on our Vanguard, and then we are going to discard that. There we go. Draw a card as well, right? We draw a card. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Dark reveal a card. Yeah, draw a card. Yep. I just wanted to make sure when it is damage checked. It is late here. My brain's not always working correctly, but we are going to now stand and draw for turn. And draw. All right, so we didn't get the one that we really wanted with the Orfist, but that's okay. We are now going to... Do I want to do that? I have a choice. I can do 2 of... Yeah, I think the Soul Blast is a little heavy right now, just to draw a card when I'm going to be able to just draw a card here anyway. So I'm going to play the Abyssal Howling Moonlit Night. I'm going to Soul Blast 1. It's only 1 order card per turn, by the way. So we're going to then draw a card. Did I just draw? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. We just drew that. And then I'm going to Counterblast 2. And let's get more tokens out. So we have a full field of tokens now, so very, very effective overall. Like I said too, the grade 3 you can place in the front row. You can make that magic 33k number. I don't really like to do that unless I have like multiple copies in my hand, but let's start off by swinging with him. No Persona Ride, unfortunately. We're going to go 1 and 2. Alright, no triggers. Our luck finally ran out. We're going to go 30 and 30 here, and really that's just the idea of it. Draw every single turn, remove the units if you want to with the grade 3 order. Completely up to you, but we have like a huge hand. Like we're definitely like, it's tough to keep up with this sometimes. Even if, like, you know, once we hit the over trigger, if I got rid of one of these guys, you know, they attacked into it, I could just replace it because I only put down 2 for the last turn. So really, really nice overall. I really like the idea of this deck. Just kind of keep it, control it, play as you will, whether you want to draw more cards, remove them with the order card, just keep it very consistent. I think the consistency with this deck is second to none, and I really, really like the strategy overall. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this is Alex from Team Generations, and if you guys have any questions, any suggestions, let me know what you're running down in the comments below. Definitely like to check that. I read every single comment. I really appreciate all the love that we've been receiving. So yeah, thank you guys again. This is Alex from Team Generations signing out.